All right. Currently recording for Rumble. About to get the live stream going for the YouTube portion. So, what I'm going to do is I'm uploading this to Rumble and then I'm going to go live on YouTube as I'm recording this, but not live on Rumble, but live on YouTube, if you can understand what I mean. So, great fights tonight with the UFC 282 post coverage that I'm about to do, and also put a political twist to this story and this fight and everything that's surrounding it. So let's go live with the YouTube right now. All right. So we are covering UFC 282 post fight coverage. And the interesting thing that I found about this fight with Jan Blachowicz versus Ankalaev is that there's some aspects of this mental game and mental approach that's very contrasting from the main and co-main event. Now, for example, you have Paddy Pimblett, and then you have Jared Gordon, who thrives on the idea of mental health, whereas you have someone like, let's say, Ankalaev or Jan Blachowicz, two Eastern Euro blocks, guys that come from this type of environment where they don't tolerate, how do I say this without getting myself in trouble? Of course, I'm not going to get in trouble putting this up on Rumble, but anywhere else can be problematic in terms of mental health approach. You see, something you guys got to understand, none of this exists in the Eastern European world. And this idea of, oh, well, I'm not mentally well today, I'm going to take a mental health day or something like that. These liberal Western ideas that I think is espoused by Paddy Pimblett and Jared Gordon. Now, why is that contrasting to the main event tonight with the two light heavyweights that are Eastern European? Well, for one, you got to understand, Jan Blachowicz has this mentality of Polish power. And what does that mean exactly? Well, what that means exactly is that you're going to persevere and carry on no matter what. Michael Bisping has the same type of tenacity in him. He's got a Polish mentality about him. Carl Froch, the boxer, has a very similar mentality about him in the way that he has been in fights where he was losing on points only to come back later on and dominate and get the late championship round finish as he did in the Taylor fight. So this is the reality of these people. And then you have Ankalaev, who comes from an Islamic background in one of the most strictest Islamic countries, Islamic regions in the world, in Dagestan, and also the propensity they have for combat sports and the acclamation that they're basically in tune with since they're kids, which makes them dominant. Now, I urge you guys to take a look at some of my past episodes of the conference call where I had why Muslim fighters are currently winning in the current state, in the current moment of time in this combat sports realm. Well, the reason why is because this idea of quitting or this idea of being undisciplined is really unheard of in the Islamic world, and especially in Dagestani culture. So what's really interesting about this is that you have the idea of, okay, you know what? If you're not feeling good today, let's just take a mental health. Let's just take a break. Let's just skip training and let's just do it another day. Now, here's the thing. I'm in favor of both ideas to a certain extent. Obviously, the Islamic idea of not allowing any mental health issues to invade your mind. Go pray, make your salat, make your wudu, make your dhikr to Allah, make dua for an easier and a less stressful life, and so on and so forth. So there's that aspect of pragmatic approach to life in ways that is really embedded in the Islamic ideology. And in the Western culture, there seems to be this aspect of taking the easy way out. Okay, I'll give you an example. Now, this is not in any way to slag off Jared Gordon or Paddy Pimblett in any type of way. But have you noticed that Paddy Pimblett is very proud of the idea that he has somehow gained a lot of weight in between his fights only to have to lose it back down again, and basically live this undisciplined life that is in contrasting trajectory towards, let's say, Team Khabib, Team Eagle, Islam Makhachev, Khamzat Chimaev, Khabib, and Usman Nurmagomedov, all these Dagestani guys that do nothing but train, train and pray. And it's just like what Andrew Tate said in his prediction back in the UFC 229 2018, when he predicted and said, yeah, I think I'm going to go with Khabib for this fight against Conor. And he mentions why. He says, well, because all Khabib does is train, go pray to Allah, train, pray to Allah, and that's it. There's basically nothing else. Hey, do you want to go to the club? No. Hey, do you want to go chase such and such? No. Hey, do you want to go meet celebrities or do movies? No. It's all about training and Allah, training and Allah. Whereas you have Paddy Pimblett. Now, not that this is a bad thing. This is actually quite a good thing because it's very conducive to his career path in terms of getting the money, getting the notoriety, and also being able to just sell tickets so easily because of the draw power that he has. And of course, Paddy has these ventures in Barstool Sports, where he's basically an ambassador for soccer and MMA in an American sporting atmosphere like Barstool that almost has no business being in the soccer world, but they want to be a mainstream sports company. So in order to do that, what do you have to do? You have to get somebody like Paddy Pimblett, who's a big supporter of Liverpool FC, somebody who understands the soccer culture, somebody who's an MMA fighter that can talk about MMA as well, and then somebody that has his own vlogs and the way that he portrays himself in social media. And interestingly enough, Paddy Pimblett has been locked out and disabled in his accounts as well, whether that was in Instagram or Facebook. And a lot of it is because of some racially charged statements that he's made towards Georgian fighters, which the one guy tonight that performed versus Bryce Mitchell, Ilia Topuria, which, by the way, was just an absolute crazy matchup. And by the way, we're going to get to that because right now we're just getting to the psychological aspects of this fight game. So what I'm trying to summarize and trying to make you guys understand is that there is an aspect of taking the easy way out in Western culture, which is something that you can see in the Paddy Pimblett versus Jared Gordon fight. Now, am I suggesting in any way that these guys are quitters or these guys are somehow mentally weak? Absolutely not. However, I think that they promote this idea of allowing it to be okay. I'll give you an example. So if you guys are parents, do you go out there and like negotiate with your kid in terms of what time is bedtime? For example, if bedtime for your kid is supposed to be 8 or 9 o'clock, then they're going to argue with you. So what are you going to do? You're going to allow certain parameters to be violated or crossed based on the fact that you want to have sympathy for your child. You want to garner their attention in terms of trying to make them not mad at you or trying to not make them angry at you. Well, interestingly enough, Khabib mentions in one of his talks that he does on these little speaking tours, claiming that you can love your kid too much to the point where you'll kill them. And that's really interesting that he mentions this. He mentions that DC, Daniel Cormier, former two-division world champion in mixed martial arts, former Olympic wrestler for the United States team, gave his son a gold chain for his birthday. And Khabib advised against this. He said, you're going to make your sons weak. You can't do this. You're going to kill their desires to have ambitions. You're going to kill their meaning of trying to accomplish what it means to be a man. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing what Khabib meant and translating it in the way that I understand it, but that is the jizz of everything that he was trying to explain in that talk. Now, in the Western mindset, they want to cater to their children to the point where sometimes it's not going to give them the proper discipline. So this is what I mean by saying that the likes of Patty and Jared Gordon are festering this idea of it's okay to be a drug addict, it's okay to have mental health issues, it's okay to have to basically take the easy way out. So when you take that concept and you put it up against the Islamic ideals calls for accountability. They call for discipline. They call for being on time, which is why we have 5 prayers during the day. Because we have to be reminded 5 times a day of God's grace on earth and also God's gift to man, but also God's reminder to man that you can easily slip. And by praying those 5 times a day, you're constantly going to be reminded of the discipline that you have to endure, of the aspects of religious zeal that has to be fulfilled within your duty. The aspect of, once again, accountability and being on time, which is something that is in contrasting nature to the likes of Paddy Pimblett, where he advocates for laziness. He advocates for, once again, taking the easy way out when things get hard. And he also advocates this idea of being the normal man. Now, keep in mind, I'm not here talking about their skills yet, because let's face it, this is the psychological part of the talk. And then after this, I'm going to go into the kicks and punches. So if you are in Rumble, I'm going to end the stream. When this stream ends in Rumble, I suggest you guys go to the YouTube link down below to take a look at the rest of the analysis of the entire card, primarily the main and co-main event of this fight. So, again, the meaning of this fight was the 2 co-main and main events and their participants and what they advocated for mental health, for trying to, I guess, relate to people out there that have this issue. Interestingly enough, Andrew Tate mentions that if you had this going on, or you had that going on, or you didn't have anything going on, this is the reason why you're depressed. And it makes a lot of sense. The thing is, he also mentions that a lot of people out there become depressed because they have so much high expectations of what they have. Now, he also mentions and says that if you're one of these people that you're okay with being the average guy, having an average job, and you wake up to that content, there's nothing wrong with that. So then you're happy. So you're not going to have any mental health issues. But guess what? Guess who the majority of the world that is like that? Muslims. You can go to the poorest countries of the Islamic world and you would find that they would be a lot more happier than, let's say, people in the Western world that have these amenities and these accommodations being afforded to them in ways that is not to the standards of, let's say, other third world countries, and in particular Islamic countries. Yet these people are a lot more happier. They have a lot more content in their hearts. They're not out there trying to dominate the world in terms of becoming this unattainable person that they could never be. In fact, sometimes there's people out there, whether they're Muslim or not, they understand their fate in this world, and they understand their limits in this planet and what they can do, and they live in between those parameters of, okay, you know what, this is just how much I'm going to make, so I'm going to budget off of this. Whereas you have people like Andrew Tate who are basically lifetime winners of, I'm going to dominate everything, I'm going to rule everything, I'm going to own this business, I'm going to own this property, I'm going to do this, I'm going to kick butt in my job, I'm going to be the top guy in my job, I'm going to be the top salesman, I'm going to be the top performer, I'm going to be the top engineer, I'm going to be the top doctor, I'm going to be the top inventor in whatever field that you're in. And there are people like that. And then there are people that are okay with just coasting by, which is something that I had noticed a lot during these fights, was that there were people out there that wanted to completely dominate and wanted to show the world that they were a force to be reckoned with. And then there were others that were just okay with coasting by, which is a reality that you see a lot in the world today. So here's an interesting observation that I had noticed. And this once again goes into the story of what had happened with my Facebook account. So I got word from somebody that I had posted something on my original Facebook account regarding Qatar. And it was regarding what I had later found out was none other than a journalist who was beat up by the Qatari police based on the fact that he was wearing a rainbow band, which, as you guys know, is a big no-no right now in Qatar. So he insisted on doing this out of defiance, and because of that, he gets beat up by the cops, but then later I find out that he is killed. Now, I don't know if this is a real story or if this is just something that this person just told me just for hearsay. I thought it was just interesting to bring up, perhaps to try to understand why it is. And I could also try to correlate this to the idea of why the right wing is now joining forces with Islam. Well, here's the reality of it. The reality of why that's going on is because of all this rainbow initiative that a lot of people are out there pushing. And as traditionalists of male and female roles and this idea of there's only two genders and things of that nature, this is a very strange idea to introduce to conservative communities otherwise, that there's more than one gender, there's more than two genders, there's the male and female and non-binary, and all these things that are being introduced. So they're absolutely abnormal to every extent of the conservative mindset and of the Islamic way of life. And I remember seeing this video a couple of days ago, not a couple of days ago, maybe even a few months ago, regarding this Muslim parent in Michigan standing side by side with these right-wing people protesting what it appears to be a very liberal school that is teaching these things. And I can't really mention what these things are, but if you guys haven't been living under a rock and you know exactly what I'm talking about, that's literally what's going on. And the reason why I can't say it is because, yes, this is being uploaded on Rumble, but this is right now live on YouTube. So you guys know what I mean. And this is something that a lot of the right wing and the left wing are conflicting against right now. But at the same time, I've noticed that at least within the United States, not so much in Western Europe or Great Britain or France or anything like that, but within the United States, I'm starting to notice a small alliance with Islamic-minded people. Maybe you can call them mainstream Islamic Muslims, for lack of a better term. And the reason why I say that is because when you think of a mainstream Muslim, maybe you think of someone like Ilhan Omar or somebody like, I don't know, Hamza Yusuf, these very liberal, friendly face Muslims to the left wing in particular. And the problem is that here's another thing that's being misconstrued. Islam mainstream is not what you think it is. It's not the mainstream of liberalism. It's the mainstream of, we all have a sunnah, we all have a tradition, we all have a way of following the Quran, of following the hadith, and nothing is going to deviate from that. So that is the meaning of mainstream conservative Muslims that are now aligning themselves with a lot of the right wing in America to tackle this, well, what some, including myself, believe to be a deviant way of life. So that's the reality of it. And it's really interesting because it never was like that before, in a sense where you've had the right wing and Muslims being friends like that. In fact, I could remember and go back as far as, the mid 2000s, maybe even just a decade ago, 5 years ago, where it was not the case, and it was a very hot, tensioned environment between the right wing folks and Muslim people. And sometimes you'll see ex service members with this sticker in the back of their car written in Arabic. It'll say infidel, and they're so proud of this idea that, oh, I'm a disbeliever or this and that, which basically just did nothing but alienate Muslims that would perhaps otherwise support them on family issues, on families, on issues of how you're going to raise your kids, maybe even issues on vaccines and things of that nature. But nonetheless, that is the alliance that I have been noticing between the left wing and the right wing. And right now I'm going into the 22nd and 23rd minute mark of this video. And I'm going to continue on with the breakdown of UFC 282. And this is the part where I'm going to cut off the Rumble stream right now. So from the top of the minute, I want you guys to click on over to the YouTube link that is being recorded live right now, and I will see you guys soon, and I will continue this stream for YouTube and breaking down UFC 282 right now. Enjoy the fights.